How are you there, folks? It's myself back again, Bluebeard here once again to have a look at editing. Sorry, it's been a little bit intermittent in when you're cutting these, but you're getting these. So hopefully most of you are just seeing them all in one shot and you're enjoying them. Either way, back to editing. I am talking to you today from Duncannon, the land of my mother. I wasn't brought up here myself, but I've spent a little bit of time here, particularly since my mother sort of retired to here. And I'm speaking from her kitchen right now, late at night. We won't talk about how late, but I'm going to try and keep this as usual to about 20 minutes. Hopefully this time I won't fail too much. Today we are looking at club creation, and we are going to set up the team that I tend to play when I start off these massive pyramids, which is Duncannon FC. Now, first off, you can see I've already got the thing up for it. This is going to be a little bit of a look at a few different things. I'm going to talk about Duncannon itself. I'm going to talk about, the village, a little bit of the club and the club's history. Talk about, this is weird. I'm going to be talking about a game I'm going to tomorrow. I've been to the ground once or twice, and I'm going to put up some clips from tomorrow's game, which will be yesterday's game probably by the time I get to it. We're going to work through all the bits and pieces related to building a team, including stadium, kit, regional divisions, which I think is important. So let's crack on and let me talk a little bit about Duncannon itself. So Duncannon is a small little village in Ireland, population of about 300. The greater area probably hits about 2,000. Bizarrely, from early on, I realised Duncannon were available. First time I think I edited was probably 2012. Yeah, I think it was 2012 when I was FM12, and I discovered they were in there. So when I was modding, it's like, okay, I'll create them. What's interesting is, like I said, the town's about 300. The greater Duncannon region area, whatever, if you want to include a couple of little places with it, because this is, in some senses, the local big town. It's probably got 2,000 people living in the general area. New Ross, which has a population of 5,000 plus, wasn't included. But somehow Duncannon as a village was, and the only other places in Wexford included were Wexford itself, which presumably means the county in this case, and Adamstown. I don't even know if Adamstown village was included in that earlier one or not. The club was. There were a few mad, odd things that were left out. But hey, I was delighted to see Duncannon have kind of become my other Irish team after Waterford, who I've been following for 25 plus years. Actually, technically, really, I've been watching them since 1980. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Waterford, we're here to talk about Duncannon. The town itself was basically sort of a fishing port meets barracks back in the day. In the 20s, the English left, but it's really only by the 1940s that you've got more than 3 families here. It's only by the 50s really that there's more than 3 families here who would be, let's say, more Republican than not, more nationalist than not. That's not important in the creation of a club. I think it's important in understanding where a place is. That's the town itself. Lovely little seaside village. It's kind of sad to see that there's been a number of the local businesses closed or closing, but it's still a place I dearly enjoy coming to. The football club itself started in 1976. They've sort of tended not to be at the upper echelons of the league, but they've not been at the bottom either. The Wexford District League is colossal. It's something like 9 divisions. I'll get you exact details a little bit later. It has about, I'm guessing it's probably about the best part of 40 to 50 teams in the division, or in the league system. And it started up in the early 70s, late 60s. Prior to 1971 or maybe 1969, I'm not too sure which, New Ross Celtic, the big team in Ross, and to be honest, the big team in the Wexford leagues, had played in the Waterford district leagues. So that'll tell you a little bit about how late we were in forming leagues. Either way, they started up in 76, so very early on in the league's career. And through good and bad, they've tended to be an okay, above average team. Their glory years were probably in 2007, 2008, thereabouts, where they got promotion. They won the second division and the first division, getting promotion into the Premiership, and they won the Neil O'Sullivan Cup along the way, beating local rivals St Leonard's. So that's a little bit of the history. Part of this I learned from being in the neighbourhood. Part of this I learned from getting this excellent book, Soccer by the Sea. It's like 10 yos. Is a really good read. It's typical sort of local club stuff. It's a huge book. Let me see. Pictures, details, all kinds of stuff. How many pages in this? Like over 240 pages. So it's value for a tenner. It's available from them. What I would recommend you do, and I'll put a link in the description, is contact the club. Give them a contact. I contacted them by Facebook at Christmas to get hold of it because I was excited at the prospect of having a read of it. Contact them. If you're in the neighbourhood, you can get them to leave them at Floods, which is the It's the local shop, really, up in Ramsgrange, and have a read. Otherwise, most of their dealings are going through Facebook these days. It's well worth looking at them. They've got tons of youth teams. They've got 2 or 3 teams in the actual league. The typical thing with these junior leagues here in Ireland anyway is you have your A team, and then they play whatever division they are, and if you're doing particularly well, there's a B team, and there may even be a C team. I cut this out of the paper at Christmas. I know it's not Christmas right now, but it's still a useful thing for me to have a look at. The New Ross Standard is excellent for putting up details about the local leagues. Hang on, where's the thing? And there we go. And if you look down the side, there's the league tables. I'm going to take a photo of the latest one, probably from this week, and put it up so you can have a look. But there's like Premier, First, Second, Third A, Fourth, 4A, and Division 5. So that's 3, 6, 8 divisions these days, which is, fairly good going for a county with a population of presumably about 100,000. I ought to look that up at some point. Anyway, you didn't come here to hear the history of Wexford football or the history of Duncannon. You came here to see what I do to create a team. So in this case, I'm editing a team that already exists. You can get a little bit from the information from here. Duncannon in Ireland. The city is Duncannon. Let's see, this is status is active or amateur, sorry. The morale is 0. We need to fix that. Reputation is 150. Division is nothing at the moment. So let's crack open and have a look at them. So Duncannon FC, Duncannon, 6-letter name, Duncan, nickname. It says Soccer by the Sea, so I think we should call them the Seasiders. Oftentimes I call them the Beach Boys, but let's go with what it should be. The hashtag, let's make it DFC. Extinct? No. We'll explore that at a later point in another thing. Nation, based nation, Continental Cup nation, All Ireland. That's normally going to be the case. In the case of some place like Derry City, their based nation is actually Northern Ireland. The town is Duncannon. Just to have a look at it, you can see if you're creating a town, different sizes. Generally in Ireland, they aren't towns as much as districts. I think 0 to 1,000 is probably fairer than whatever. Attraction is, as before, out of, how many was it? Out of 20, yes. It has the latitude in decimal, which is, commonsensical because it's decimal. It's 48 metres above sea. Language, you can put in something. I'm inclined not to in Ireland because that means you have the possibility of bilinguality. But that's only if you're worrying about town building or creation. Let's go back to Duncannon. Foreground color, background color. So one of the issues is when they don't have a kit in place already. Let me go back to it. They give these foreground colors and background colors that don't really add up to anything. So we're going to go with the background color being that sort of, let's see, is that the right? No, that's not vibrant enough. There we go. If you know the numbers on your on these things, you can put them in, but you know, again, not too worried. It's a yellow, and it's a vibrant yellow as well that they have for the foreground color. You'll see it backwards, you'll see it forwards. Honestly, this could all get changed tomorrow when I go to the game and go, oh, this is what their kit looks now. Year founded, listed, status is interesting because you can have pro, semi-pro, and always amateur. Teams like Queen's Park and Home Farm are always amateur. You can put in maximum or minimum wages if you want to have it like being an over 40s team, or if you want to have it being a youths team. You know, some of the teams I create in here are young. You know, I tend to put in sort of county development sides to help fill it out. I tend to put a maximum age on those. So, morale, let's give them a middling morale, 10. Reputation, 150 is probably okay with me. Institute, All-Star Club, none of those. Let's go down through the lists. Ownership is interesting, I think. Hello again. Sorry for the brief delay. I was keeping people awake with my deep booming voice. Anyway, we're going to go back and look from where I cut off. And apologies to those of you who may have been kept awake by me, who may be listening now. Sorry, and I may owe you apologies for keeping you up. Anyway, ownership I find interesting because you've got a couple of different opportunities. You can have president, general manager, or chairman. I lean towards, for this club, chairman. Limited liability company, public limited company, or member owned with or without elections. I think this is a member owned kind of thing. So we have a few different things we can do with this. Let's have a date for membership, for an AGM. I think that should be at the end of the year. Let's put it the Saturday of the Immaculate Conception, which is a thing in Ireland. It's going shopping day. Promises different things. I don't want to promise for these guys. I don't think it makes sense. Let's make it a single year term. Maximum number of terms. Let's make it 10. Don't really want to have somebody stuck there all their life. Current number of terms, 1. Maximum turnout being 1 to 100. So it could be any kind of size. Will remain fan owned. Let's leave it open for excitement. I'm going to skip stadium for a moment. Finances, I'm happy starting with nothing. Maximums, sugar daddies is fun if you really want to have an easy, cheap kind of kick-off. Stadium rental, all these kind of things, you can set these. I tend to leave them open so that they will find their own level, but maybe I'm being naive. Other income, you can add different kinds of income coming from different sources. For example, all these different things. So back of shirt sponsorship, short sponsorship, parachute payments for going down the division or for whatever reason. You can investigate those if you want for yours. Personally, I don't particularly care for them. For this version of the club, you can see pre-existing debts, money that's due you, and clauses and stuff like that. Competitions is actually where I'm going to land. Actually, no, we won't land on competitions yet for a moment. Let me close up all of these things. But we will be coming back to some of them in a little bit. What will I do next? Let's see. Yeah, you can tell that tactical attributes you can set. Not bothered by them. Supporter profile I find interesting. but again, not going to change. Generally, when I see something listed like 10s or something like that, I'm guessing that's probably a default, especially with a club that doesn't have a real existence in the game, if that makes sense. You know, these teams that aren't in the actual game created leagues tend not to really, they tend to be sort of set to do whatever. Contract types can be set, you know, how much you're going, like for example, you want your manager, it's going to be non-contract as a matter of course. That's probably going to happen here, but we won't worry about that for a little while. We'll come back to kits and colors. Staff and players, you can elect specific players who's in charge of the board and things like that. You do have to create that player for him to exist if he doesn't, human to exist if he doesn't already. Relationships is something I am going to work on, and this will get bigger as we go along, because the team I would like, I'm guessing, doesn't exist yet. I normally put in feathered as our deadliest rivals, because why not? Oh, feathered rangers. Yeah, I put them already in the city of Duncannon, but put them as a 100% rivalry. And we'll make it just allow it just be local. Clubs don't transfer to each other. Yeah, let's make it bitter. I'll add in at a much lower level the other local rival. We'll say it's 70%, which would be Campile. Search for CMPIL. Oh, there's a few of them. Campile United is the one we want. Again, I also put them as Duncannon. They were both listed as Wexford. I don't think it makes sense to include them or to fail to include them. There's another one I know of, which I don't think, I'm pretty sure doesn't exist at the moment. St. Leonard's in Hastings. There does exist one. This isn't St. Leonard's of Hastings. St. Leonard, by the way, is the neighbouring village to Hastings, just for those of you who want to know these things. I will create St. Leonard's, but I won't do it right now. New Ross. There should be 2 towns, and it's New Ross Town is who we want to be the rival. Put that as maybe a 45, and we'll call it a competitive one. They're close, but they're not that close. And I'll add in St. Leonard's when I create St. Leonard's, won't I? So looking down, favorite people, dislike people, club legends, and so on and so forth. Club icons. I would love to add person. What kind of persons do we have? Search. Apply filter. So this is where the names come up. Cancel. Name. Let's try Jim Flood. I think it's Jim. It could be John. But he was a guy who was manager for a good old length of time, and he did so much stuff there. He won 2 leagues, won a cup, really brought them up. And can name stadium after person. Yes, we can name the stadium after person. We'll put him at a 50 because he did so much there. So I think we can get away with that. I don't know. I'll have to double check, because I tend not to create the club-led icons out of people who don't really exist in the game. I tend not to create people in the game. I don't know why. I've never really gone for it. Club affiliations, you can decide if they're like the main club or the secondary club to team. Records is interesting. You can put in details. I'm not going to worry about it, because honestly, it's such a little thing. Team Cup history. Now I could add different years where the team did so well in such a competition. Again, I'm not going to, because we're kind of creating so much of this from scratch. I could look up who's won, for example, the Neil O'Sullivan Cup, and create a whole ton of work for myself, finding out all the details and trying to include it for everybody. I try to be more democratic than that. Let's look at the stadium. Okay, so does their stadium exist or not? I don't know. I may have created it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. City contains Duncannon. There's no stadium right now. Okay, so we are building ourselves a stadium. Back to database. Back down the list to stadiums. It's very helpful that this is a completely non-alphabetical stadium. So your random, your unique ID. So it's basically Ryan's Park, which is sometimes called Mersheen, set in the village of, obviously enough, Duncannon. Okay. Click that into place. Owner is kind of the club at this point, so we'll need to look up the club. It feels sometimes like I've already had this information up, but you haven't. I haven't really. Oops. UNCA Duncannon. Owner type is the club, council, private, chairman, or fans. I'm going to leave it as being the club this occasion. You can see the seat color has kind of found its way in as what I would like, so that's okay by me. Is it a training ground? Yes and no. I'm going to create a Ryan's Mersheen as a training ground just for the fun of it. Capacity. Listen, there are no seats in this. Here, I'll skip. Put up right now a picture of the actual ground. Right, I meant a video rather than a picture, but you get the gist. So, how many people can fit around a football pitch? I'm going to say about 120. Seating capacity, let's put it as 80. Capacity for all seat, expansion capacity. I think apart from there's room enough in that area, I think, to create, if you knock down that one house, I think there's room enough to create a stadium that has a capacity of maybe 8,500 people. Oops, not 85,000. 8,500. I think that's fair. Pitch type is grass. It is all the grass. Pitch length, I think that's fair. 105 by 68. Maximum length. The pitch length is longer than the minimum pitch length. Maximum pitch length is 120. So yeah, we have good parameters there. Pitch condition. It's actually a lot better than I expected it to be. I'm going to put it at 160. I'll say the pitch deterioration rate is medium. Pitch recovery rate is average. Let's say, when did we say all these things kind of start? Let's have the last time the pitch was relayed as being about 10 years ago. 2010, we'll say. February 2010. Oh no, it wouldn't have been. It would have been the summer, wouldn't it? June 1st, 2010. So a required relay date. Let's make it the year 2525. That didn't come up as I wanted it. 2010. Let's make it 20 years of an unlaid pitch. Okay, still not showing up. Build date 1976. I mean, they've expanded. I'm guessing it was a simple single field in 1976. Let's have it April Fool's Day. April 1st, 1976. Rebuild hasn't been rebuilt. Date of current ownership. We'll leave that. Latitude and longitude. Easy way to do that. What is Duncannon's? It is 52.226. So first one is 52.226. And cheat and go back. Oops. Cheat and go forward then maybe. That's minus 6.932. I know this sounds silly stuff. I don't know if it really has a major impact. Minus 7.936. I'm absolutely certain that's wrong. 6.932. I had some numbers. 6.932. That 6 looks awfully like a 2. Minus 6.932. State. It's not in great condition, to be honest, because I'm going to put it as poor. Used by no teams. Extinct is covered now. Retractable undersoil. Digital nearby stadium. Search for nearby stadiums. Would that it were so easy. Nearby stadium, I'm going to say, is for now RSC. Put actually city. Nation is too open. City of Waterford is a nearby stadium. Or the Regional Sports Centre. So we now have a stadium. We can also set in advance capacity changes, but we don't really need to do that right now. So going to other direction. Stadium is ironically regional sports come up. Apply filter again, you get Ryan's Park. Now here's an odd little trick. I basically want to create the same thing as their training pitch with worse condition. So let's enter the name again. Contains Ryan P. Ryan's Park as opposed to Brian's Park and Ryan Park. So we're going to duplicate it, which means we have to do minimal work. We'll just call it machine club. The owner is Duncannon. Is the training ground. Capacity, we'll call it 100. We'll say the seating capacity is 0. Expansion capacity, let's call it 1500. I mean, call me up to say I'm wrong if you like, but we can do that. Let's see where the quality is. State is very poor. What else do I need to put in? I think it's probably about the same, but I'll say the deterioration rate is quicker and the quality is lesser. 75. So now Duncannon has both a ground and a training ground. Add condition city contains Duncan. There we go. Attendance minimum, maximum. So you can tinker all these things around. I think these are good figures for how poor the facilities are. It's unfair, but I do think youth is actually more important. So I'm going to put that as 18. Youth coaching, they actually do a lot of work on the youth coaching when I'm thinking of it. So let's put it 13. I mean, it is an amateur club, so it's not fair to say it's a lot better. They've got some facilities compared to some clubs, but not very much. Youth recruitment, we'll make that 6. Again, Duncannon are heads. come to me and tell me how wrong I am. I've just realized I didn't put in Mersheen. I put in Ryan's Park again. There we go, it's Mersheen. Some years I use the vocational school as a training ground, but they have the spaces to do all these things where they're at. Realizing that I'm racing through this super slowly. So very quickly, kits and colors. This is one of my favorite things to do. Add. So change the color styles. They've had different ones over the years. I'm going to play with a couple of ones. The hoop is always a good one. That is that navy color, and the hoop is a yellow. It should be the same as the teams. The number on the back needs an outline. Let's give it that navy-ish color. And actually the outline should be white. What am I talking about? I'm a fool, a beautiful, beautiful fool. Let's put that as an outline so you can see the number a little bit better. You can choose if you want this for just a competition or something like that, or you choose a year when a new kit takes over. So you've got a lot of freedom on this. The shorts, based on the kids I've seen playing, should be fairly dark. Need to change the name from that to shorts, and that's good. And the socks, I tend to find that once I do these three, everything else kind of fits in together as it should do. And the trim is yellow, and let's change it to be this. Now let's go 3 stripes, make them a big team. Away kit, I tend to have fun. I'm not as inclined to find the exact style of an away kit as I am with the home kit, but again, I'm going to keep this one fairly similar in style. I'm just going to do something interesting with what it looks like. I like that, but then again, I do like that stripy line. Number color, let's go for broke and make it navy as well. Lazy trick, duplicate, and you can do some easier things like shorts, and then I'm just going to add in the stripes on the sides. If my son was here, he'd be putting them as striped shorts, which I think looks horrific, but you know, chiselers. And this last one we need to change to socks. Yeah, you can make a third kit as well. I'm not going to do that today because it just will take too long. So we have a home kit and away kit. The last thing I really want to show you through is where is it? Competitions. So undeservingly, I'm putting these poor guys in the bottom tier, in the 10th tier. This is all about me trying to get a team from the very bottom to the very top, and that would be Wexford 2nd Division A. Very, very, very low division to start with. Nothing much there. Starting me the expectations I could have fun with, but no. Regional divisions is actually a really important thing. Now, normally I do this in bulk, but I'm going to do it as a sort of a 1-by-1 because I think it'll be important to see what happens. So Wexford Regional, Wexford Football Division Premier Division is a 7th tier thing. I think you can, you know, have teams move and stuff like that, but I'm not inclined to. The 8th, we have a 9th, and we have a 10th. These are all the Wexfordy ones. So 2A is 10th tier, search, add condition, name contains Wexford. So second, the first division is 8th, and division 2 is 9th. So we've got 7, 8, 9, 10. What about 3, 4, 5, 6? They all need to be added. So this will be 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so 3 is straightforward enough. We need to make this a little bit more accurate though to make it easier. Nation is Ireland, and we're going to change this one into competition level is 3. So Irish regional seconds, move this apart so we can see a little bit better. Irish second division south, QED, search, level 4. Probably wondering why on earth is he doing all this? This makes little to no sense. Division south, 5th, search. We're going to change this time to actually, yeah, we are going to keep it at 5. Let's see, where are we doing? Southeast Super League, so be it. And finally 6 will be the other Southeast, which is the Southeast Championship. There we go. Now, the reason for doing all these guys is surprisingly simple. When a team gets promoted or relegated and you don't have a specific place where they're going to, i.e. they're getting promoted from the 10th tier into the 2nd tier, there are 15 different clubs and teams in the 2nd tier. It'll pick them at random where it goes unless you set this up. You have to sort of set it up in a couple of places, but I've found that doing this here is the most effective, because what ends up happening is those teams that you pick, well, they end up going where you want them to. So Wexford in second division 2A will go up to 2, not into like Limerick B or anything like that. From 2 they'll go up to Wexford 1, not into Tipperary or anything like that. You can there's a little bit of freedom. For example, with some of the Dublin teams, I'm going to give them a choice of being in either or both, but by and large, for the most part, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this in bulk, and I'll talk about that on another day. But right now, that is a ton of stuff in a very short space of time. You can see there's lots of other things you can be doing here, but most importantly for now, I think that's going to get you through creating a club that kind of already exists. A lot of this stuff is going to be duplicated, so next time around I'm not going to include all of it. Like for example, now you know how to sort of stratify your clubs. But the next day I aim to talk a little bit about 2 things. Number 1, I want to talk about the creation of clubs from duplicating others. And secondly, we're going to look at creating a club from pure scratch, i.e. you have nothing to start with. Generally, your main man there is going to be planning. But I think it's going to be way longer an episode than I planned. I think we're pushing 40 minutes. Sorry, but I hope there's something in here that you enjoy and that you can take away. Anyway, in the meantime, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Do like and subscribe. Do follow Duncannon FC. They're good guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing them in this league. In the meantime, I will see you the next day. See you soon. Bye.